Welcome to the Philadelphia Assembly. Today is the 15th day of the first month of the year 5777. And today we're celebrating the first day of unleavened bread here as we discern the Creator's calendar. So today we're really just enjoying the feast. We planned to go live at 2 o'clock today, but we didn't have enough internet signal. So we're just doing it for the YouTube, and we'll put it up later, and I'll put something on the internet explaining that after we get done with the message. We're going to keep this message short and sweet because we want to get back to feasting and eating and fellowshipping and all those things that we need to be about during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Obviously, we're going to go in and just read the scriptures today that pertain to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, we're going to open up our study today in Exodus 12. Okay, but first we're going to open in prayer. Almighty Father Yahuwah, we thank you for this first day of unleavened day, this 15th day of the first month. And we ask that your blessing be upon it, Father, that you would bless each one that keeps it today, and Father, all those that keep it within the season. Okay, we know that the Feast of Unleavened Bread is a spring feast, and it's in the month of Abib, and we've already went through, and we have a teaching that explains how we discern the month of Abib. So we ask that your blessing be upon us and upon this teaching, and Father, may we all be edified. We ask it all in Jesus or Yahushua's name. Amen. So whatever way we say those names, again, we don't have to go over this every week, but we know it is not a salvational issue, but it is important. All truth is important. So we go in and we look at it as best we can, because right now we know in part and we prophesy in part. But that when that which is perfect comes, that which is in part shall be done away with. But now we have to be fully convinced in our own conscience. So we're going to start reading today in Exodus 12, and we're just going to take off in verse 14. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahuwah throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul or individual person shall be cut off from Israel. 16. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, or set apart assembly. So it's not just a day that we feast on and eat unleavened bread, but we're supposed to congregate and come together, whether we have to do that on the internet or we do it face to face. But it's always best for us all to get together, because iron sharpens iron, and if we're not together, iron's not going to sharpen iron. Okay, we're all about getting people together in the body of our Messiah, because that's what we are to do, not causing division and strife. So again, it's a holy convocation or set apart assembly. And in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, except that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. So obviously the set apart days or his high Sabbaths are, you can prepare food, get it ready. Okay, we're on the 7th day Sabbath, and obviously on the Day of Atonement you shall not do any work. So you have to have all that preparation done prior to the beginning. But on the feast day we can prepare, because there's not always a preparation day before, a feast day or set apart assembly. Okay, it says, and you shall observe the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And that's what we're doing. We're observing. Observing means much more than just keeping. It's about watching the signs and all those things, pulling together, keeping it to the best of our understanding. So that's what we need. For this selfsame day have I brought your armies, or your masses, okay, armies here could be masses, out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread. That means when the sun goes down at the end of the 14th day, that's when you start eating leaven. The Passover day, start unleavening. You have to have all that leaven out of your house, and it's unleavened. That starts the day of unleavened day. The 14th day is not a day of unleavened bread. Okay, there's 7 days, not 8. Okay, so there we go. We see that in there. And it says, again, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even, at the sundown, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. So, the end of the 14th day, you'll have no leavening in your house, and you'll eat no leavening until the end of the 20th day of the month at even. That's 7 days of unleavened bread, not 8. Okay? Verse 19, 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. Not just leavened bread, but no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eats that which is leavened, even that individual or person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land, whether he be a natural born Israelite or be a grafted in Israelite. Verse 20, you shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations you shall eat unleavened bread. So it's not just the getting out of the leaven out of your house, but it also says you're supposed to be eating unleavened bread, which most of us that have understanding in that know that we're putting in our Messiah because he is unleavened. Because during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, leaven represents sin. And that's why we get it out of our house in there for 7 days, because we're putting on our Mashiach, our Messiah, Yahushua, or Jesus. Okay, so that's what we're about. That's Exodus chapter 12. Let's turn to Exodus 34. A little bit more there. Exodus, I said 34. Okay. That's what happens when you get a new Bible, huh? Exodus 34:18. There it goes. Couldn't get that page to turn. Exodus 34, and we're going to start in verse 18. And it said, okay, make sure I'm in the right spot here. Exodus 34:18 says, the feast of unleavened bread shall you keep. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, in the time of the month Abib. So again, you have to discern when the month of Abib is, and I know different people discern it in different ways, but the most important thing is that you do it in the proper season. The month of Abib is the beginning of months, or the springtime, not in the winter. For in the month of Abib you came out from Egypt. All that opened the matrix is mine, and every firstling among the cattle, wheresoever ox, sheep, that is male. Okay, so that's, again, it's just reminding us that we are to be keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days. It's mentioned so many times, and that's all we're not going to hit them all, but we're going to hit these few because, again, we're going to keep it simple to get back to feastings. Let's go to Numbers 28. Numbers chapter 28, and we're going to start in verse 17 and read through 26. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. In the first day there shall be an holy convocation, or set apart assembly. You shall do no manner of work of servile, work therein. In other words, regular work that you would do, like to prepare to make money and do regular things in your life, but you are able to prepare food on this day, work therein. But you shall offer a sacrifice made by fire for a burnt offering unto Yahuwah, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year. They shall be unto you first year they shall be unto you without blemish or defect. And their meat offering shall be of flour, or this meat again is food offering, or grain offering in this situation, but food offering. So it says, and their food offering shall be of flour mingled with oil, 3/10 deals shall you offer for a bullock, and 2/10 deals for a ram. A several tenth deal shall you offer for every lamb throughout the 7 lambs, and 1 goat for a sin offering to make an atonement for you. So how far that says going to read? Through 26. You shall offer these besides the burnt offering in the morning, which is for a continual burnt offering, or the daily burnt offering. After this manner you shall offer daily throughout the 7 days the meat of the sacrifice made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. It shall be offered beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. And on the 7th day you shall have a holy convocation, again, or set apart assembly. You shall do no servile work therein. So that's what we're reading there. Now we know Numbers covers the sacrifices. Now a lot of people will tell you the sacrifices are done away with. I'm going to tell you that right now they're in suspension. Okay, they have to be, because we're not supposed to be offering sacrifices, because our Messiah was our sacrifice, and he is now at the right hand of the Father, Yahuwah, making intercession for us day and night. Okay, but when the first resurrection and the millennial reign comes, he's going to be down here with us, and it's clear that in the prophets it shows that the Levites will be offering sacrifices in the temple for sin. And we aren't sure on all of that, but we know that's the case, and because we can read. Okay, let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus chapter 23. I went to Numbers first, that's all right, because I did. Leviticus chapter 23. Now, we've already kept the Passover and did everything concerning the Passover that we believe that we are to do. So now we're going to talk about the days of unleavened bread. But we have to remember what this says, because it says these, starting from this point, and obviously even these are my feasts, talking about the 7th day Sabbath as a feast day. Okay, but from here on, for the rest of the book of Leviticus chapter 23, all these days mentioned, he says, even these are my feast. We'll be going into that a little bit more on the wave sheaf this coming first day of the week. Okay, so that you understand, even these are my feasts. And we'll start in verse 7. In the first day, wait a minute, let's start in verse 6. And on the 15th day, which is today, of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahuwah. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation, again, or set apart assembly. You shall do no regular servile work therein, but you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah 7 days. In the 7th day is a set apart assembly, or holy convocation. You shall do no regular work therein. So that's where we've read in Leviticus. Let's see what it mentions in Deuteronomy the 16th, I think. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 16. And we're going to start reading in verse 3. It says, you shall eat no leavened bread. Okay, wait a minute. You shall therefore sacrifice the Passover unto Yahuwah your Elohim of the flock and of the herd in the place which Yahuwah shall choose to place his name there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. Okay, that Passover lamb that they offered back in Exodus was a representative of the Messiah. And with those blood sacrifice, you would take no leaven at any of them. Okay, it didn't matter what time of the year it was. You just didn't take leavened bread with any of those blood sacrifices. And it covers that in Leviticus in another spot. We're just not going to go back there today because we're going to stay on schedule here. And it says, you shall eat no leavened bread with it or any of the sacrifices. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Again, we're back to remembering that we're going to be eating unleavened bread, not just not eating leavened bread, but we have to eat leavened bread therewith. Even the bread of affliction, because we know back in Exodus that the children of Israel were pushed out of Egypt, and they didn't, and it said they didn't have time to knead their bread. Okay, so we have, this is all about remembering what it's talking about, the Exodus, when they were pushed out and they had no leavened bread, and they were commanded that for 7 days. But that's why they called it the bread of affliction. For you came forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you mayest remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. Now, we know physical Israel and also the stranger that was with them came out of Egypt that night. So it wasn't just the bloodline Israelites that got pushed out. It was also a lot of strangers that went there with them as well. Okay? So then it says, and there shall be no leavened bread seen with you, okay, in all your coast or your borders. That means the whole area of your country. 7 days, and this could be talking about your property here. Neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrificed the first day at even remain all night until the morning. So that tells you back then when they offered that Passover lamb that was pointing towards our Messiah to be offered for us, they were to eat of that lamb, all that that family could do, and then they would burn it up along with the drink offering that was blessed. That's with that physical Seder meal that they took back in the Exodus. Okay? So at even remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates, which Yahuwah has given you. So if you remember the original Exodus, they did. Every one of them went in their own houses. But it says from that time over, once they came into the promised land forward, they wouldn't eat them in their own homes. They were to go and have them collectively, either in the temple or wherever they might be. Okay? Then it says, but at the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose to place his name in, there you shall sacrifice the Passover at even, or at the end of the 14th day, at the going down of the sun, at the season that you camest forth out of Egypt. Now, we know that our Messiah took the Passover, or the sacraments that we take now, the bread and the wine, okay, at the beginning of the 14th day instead of at the end like they ate the Seder, because he couldn't do that because he was going to be on the stake or the tree at that time, and he was going to be our sacrifice. And you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose, and you shall turn in the morning and go into your tents. 6 days shall you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day, obviously you eat unleavened bread too, shall be a solemn assembly to Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall do no work therein. So that's the end of all the things, or most of the things in the Old Testament, or the Tanakh, that talks about the days of unleavened bread. And I've added some opinion obviously in there, but also I believe it's held up in the New Testament. We're going to close now because I told you we're going to be a short teaching on this today. We're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. There's more, but I'll be mixing my two messages if I went on that I have for the wave sheaf, or the first day count to the Omer towards Pentecost. Okay, so let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. See, a lot of people say, okay, since Yahushua or Jesus is our Passover, We aren't to eat this. And there's much more when we get on the wave sheaf. I'm going to hit those, but right now we're just going to hit this one for time's sake. So we're going to start in verse 6. We're just going to read through 8. Your boasting is not good, or your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? So if you put a little leaven in bread, it'll leaven the whole lump. And if you put a little sin in us, it'll make the whole thing. We'll all be about sin. We'll be a servant to sin. So we have to be about getting sin out of our life as our example of the days of unleavened bread, as our Messiah did, and this unleavened bread representing our Messiah. And then he says, purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For even Christ, or the anointed one, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. So obviously, back there when they gave the Seder's offering, he wasn't offered. He hadn't yet died for our sins. So these things were only a shadow of things to come. So back there, it just was, all that was doing was making it possible for us to approach Yahuwah, or God, in the temple, Elohim in the temple. Okay, so it never did take away sin. So once our Messiah died, he set the example of the sacraments that were to be taken the night of the beginning of the 14th. Okay, so it says, purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For even the anointed one, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So that's how you are to keep the feast. That's how you are. The only way you can keep any of God's law is if you do it with sincerity in truth to please our Creator. So we're going to stop right there today, and I just wish everybody that's keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread this week a blessed feast, and we look forward to talking to you again on the Sabbath, and then also on the first day, the wave sheaf offering, or the first day of the Omer count. Again, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, criticisms, contact us at Philadelphia Assemblies, IES plural, @gmail.com. And may Yahuwah bless until we meet again.